Can't get enough of Kelly and Ramya?
We're now on YouTube for you to indulge in highlights from our show.
We got a lot to talk about, a lot to be proud about, ladies and gentlemen, as far as I'm concerned. I know all the games that I was able to catch watching Canada perform over the last 30 days has just been absolutely tremendous. Now, I'm stretching it, not quite that long, but close enough. Canada made history at the FIBA World Cup by placing third and qualifying for the Paris Olympics. I mean, placing like this, amazing. The efforts of being able to qualify for Paris, fantastic. Joining us now to talk all about it, because he was there courtside for these games, is Sportsnet's Arash Madani. Arash, wonderful. Thanks for making time, especially still hanging on to some jet lag, I'm sure.
A lot of jet lag, but always good to come on, always good to talk hoops.
You know, one of the things that I always smile about, and Ramya, I don't know if I've told you this story, but Arash and I one day, he was sitting ahead of me, and I don't know if Arash remembers this at all. We were in the press box at Rogers Centre, and Arash yelled, "Heads up." Well, of course, our little blind person spider sense told me, a baseball must be coming. And sure enough, bang, bang. So, Arash, I don't think I've ever said, hey, thanks for the heads up. But that was something I always smile and giggle about when I think about times down there. But I know today,
did you walk away with the baseball? That's the bigger question.
No, it bounced down the stairs, and I figured someone else got it first. It landed near me, right, like about 3 feet from me, and then never hit me, just close enough. Then went thump, 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 down the steps. My heavens. We'll talk a little bit about a different ball, basketball, Arash, some really cool things as we talk about this historic run for Canada, finally qualifying for the Olympics. A long time in coming, would we say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first time in a generation. The last time they did it, Sydney 2000, Steve Nash and those guys running around at an Olympics. And it's amazing, you know, Kelly, you think about the journey and how long this has been. You know, for me, one of the coolest parts about all this was getting to have a front row seat to this coming of age moment, because it's felt like forever. People talked about what if. What if a number of the NBA guys committed? What if all the stars aligned for one summer? What if this all happened? What could be? And we got our answer. Yeah. And a country that has so much presence in the NBA finally got some stars and finally put it together and finally got it done at a World Cup. So they will be headed to Paris next summer, in no small part thanks to that guy right there. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of Hamilton, who is just an absolute beast, and Dylan Brooks, 24. Without those two guys, none of this happens.
But I got to say, I've heard you talking to some of your coworkers, appearing on shows, and the one thing you said from the beginning is what a chance Canada has here to place, to get up there in the realm of a silver, potentially even a gold. You, from the beginning, knew this. Why?
Because we've never had a team this good ever. The talent on this. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played in almost any other market but Oklahoma City, we would be talking about him with such reverence. We would be talking about him as one of the mega stars in the game. But he's stuck over there in Oklahoma, and they're miserable, and who really wants to spend time in Oklahoma City? The way this team came together and their kind of DNA on the defensive end and the buy-in that they got, Dylan Brooks disrupting. It was just one of those things where coming into this, you said to yourself, all right, Nickeil Alexander can only shoot, but he can defend, and he's coming off the bench. Shai can take games over. Dylan can really make an impact on both sides of the floor. And on the first day of training camp, Jordi Fernandez told this team, if we don't have a defensive first mindset, we're doing a disservice to everybody here. And what really caught my eye very early was how much they bought in on the defensive end. So you kind of put all that together and you're looking around, you're saying, you know what? We're Canadian. It's okay to beat our chests a little bit and say we're really good when we are. And Canada proved it at the World Cup that we are.
If you look at it as a whole, this roster versus past squads, how would you say? Because you broke down the individuals and what they're offering to why we're so good this time around. But what's the comparison?
There isn't one. like this is the best team we've ever put together. And there are a handful of guys that can be added to the mix for next summer in Paris, which is what makes this so exciting, what makes it so intriguing. Like, let's go back, what are we here, middle of September? Let's go back 3 whole months. Jamal Murray was the best or second best player in the entire NBA playoffs, and they just won a championship, coming off an ACL. A healthy Jamal Murray, add him into the mix, put Shea and Jamal as your backcourt. What could that be? Shaedon Sharpe from London, Ontario, is really coming into his own in the NBA. Just very young right now. Another year of being in the pros. What can he be? Benedict Mathurin. This is a Canadian team that's lacking size. They need bigs. Mathurin's from Montreal. Put a little bit more bulk on him. Put another another year of NBA seasoning on him. What can he be? So I just look at the team that there is now, and if you can add a little bit more to this mix, there is no reason to believe why we should not be a medal contender at the Olympics next summer.
So with that being said, and I agree, I mean, I found myself, and I hated it because I was so proud of this team and smiling, I found myself still saying, what if this person was, what if? And I wanted just to really stop and enjoy it. The fans in the Philippines, for example, in your time there, I'm sure you saw, they did not seem to favor Canada at first, but by the end, we were hearing MVP for Shea being chanted out. Are we, sitting here in Canada, that's what it appeared to us. How about you courtside, and what other observations do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, the coolest part about the Philippines is basketball is the #1 sport there. Like, ahead of soccer, ahead of everything else, basketball is #1. And for the fans there, it blew them away that they were getting to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards. Because to them, the NBA is YouTube. To them, NBA is just something on television, and now they get to see them up close and personal. And I just want to cement, Kelly, like the Shea thing to me is amazing because he is all NBA first team. He's literally a top 5 player in the world. We haven't had one of those in Steve Nash. And I just, I've always kind of wondered, does market size matter? It obviously does. Because if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played for the Knicks, there would be massive billboards of him in Times Square. Somebody asked me, and I think you guys will both appreciate this. They said, who's his comp? Who does he remind you of? And I thought about it. And my answer was Patrick Mahomes. Because he can do so many different things. He is face of the franchise. He is leader of a team, and he makes everybody around him better. The world got to see that this summer.
And he is what puts his market, into the conversation. Why ESPN and some of them just chat it up all the time, right?
Yeah. Here's the other part that's really cool. His mom was a sprinter at Barcelona 1992. So Shea's an all-star, all first-team NBA, signs the big contract, March Madness, And every day, Mom was like, yeah, but you're not an Olympian. You're not an Olympian. He always had a chance to hang that over his head.
That's a good mom. Inspire.
That's right.
Competitive. Oh, my goodness. What was it for you, like, being around the team during the tournament, seeing how people were interacting with each other, the milestone, everything?
It's a great question. I think one of the neatest parts for me was to see professional athletes not behave like professional athletes. And what I mean by that is they truly bought into we, not me. They were not interested in me getting mine. It didn't matter who scored. It didn't matter who got the attention. They so badly wanted this. That was really cool. Kelly Olynyk, the captain of the team, joined the senior men's national team as a teenager. Now here he is in his mid-30s. His first run with the national team, they went 0-5. Never could have imagined this being a reality or a possibility. And when they clinched, when they beat Spain, I had a chance to interview Kelly. And, Kelly was a kid when Nash and those guys were We're at the Olympics. And he said, I remember being in Aunt Janine's living room on the carpet watching. And Aunt Janine passed a couple of years ago. And at the peak of his national team career, Kelly wanted to shout out Aunt Janine. I just think like stories like those are so important. Man. Melvin Edgem, a veteran on the bench, yelling out to the players what their responsibilities should be. He could scream at a couple of the guys, hey, don't forget this, don't forget that. That doesn't happen in the NBA. Happens when you're playing for your country, when the goal and the cause is something way bigger than you.
Yep. And you could clearly see it, especially when they were in that huddle going into overtime. And we heard the comments that Kelly talked about during the interview of, you know, aren't we so lucky to be going into overtime and to be on the floor with each other for that much more time? And when you hear something like that, and you know, yeah, they're there to medal, they're there to win, they're there to accomplish so much. Arash, when we look at the accomplishments, what do you think this does for the commitment to the other stars that couldn't make it, that we know and we hear the names tossed around?
Well, that was the question I had for Dylan Brooks. I said, what's your recruiting pitch now to the guys who aren't here, who could be next summer? And he said, we want to win gold. We want you. Let's go do it together. I mean, that's pretty powerful to hear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and they believe it, and they mean it. So let's see.
How about sponsors? I hear there's a lot of people knocking at the door. What does that look like for this team? I mean, again, that's just one of those sidebar wonders and queries.
So this is what's interesting about what Canada basketball is doing. Like at the under 17, at the under 19, women's national team, men's national team. They have 3-on-3 programs that are now Olympic sports, men's and women's. They're all succeeding. And, you know, there were a number of their sponsors who were there in Southeast Asia for this run. The airline company, the insurance company. And getting in right now in basketball feels like the ground level still. And it's a huge opportunity. And, you know, let's just think back after the Raptors won it in 2019. There were a lot more basketball hoops popping up in driveways and in subdivisions all over the country. This is about to blow up big. And it's, if corporate Canada gets on board, it can only help it, you know, escalate quicker.
As they should. It's momentum.
Exactly. And it's Canadian pride now. Something else, you know, that we're able to, that before wasn't there, wasn't really a thing for us, just another component, and to make us so proud and to have such amazing players that want to play for their country. It's a nice thing, since we get such a complex of who wants to play, who wants to represent, who even wants to come here. Arash, as usual, wonderful. Thank you for making time for us, and get a lot of rest.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We'll talk to you soon. Arash Madani from Sportsnet talking about Canada's historic run at the World Cup of basketball.
Thanks for watching.
You can catch Kelly and Ramya weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern on AMI.